Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, Maverick family and new viewers from all around the world. Big night again in news. Major development in the Nancy Guthrie abduction case, as new video just released by the FBI is going viral online, and we will share that with you along with the latest information on the investigation and what the family is doing in this ongoing period of desperation. Also, the Gordie Howe Bridge controversy and background information that you're probably not going to get anyplace else, because I'm not hearing much about what I'm about to share with you tonight regarding this international controversy, this story about this international border crossing, this bridge. And I'll tell you that the politics is thick. The behind the scenes stuff that is already coming out, I think you will find enlightening, because it will give you a different perspective on what is going on with Trump and where we stand as a country here in Canada with regard to our relationship with the United States, and very specifically with the current president and his administration. So we have all of that and more, including the reignited feud between Elon Musk and Steve Bannon. And that's all because of the Epstein files, largely. Stay with us. We have a lot to unpack tonight.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, and we have major developments in the Nancy Guthrie abduction case tonight, as Kash Patel, director of the FBI, has released surveillance video showing what they're calling a potential subject. I'm going to say it's a suspect, because anybody in video footage like I'm about to show you is obviously a suspect. These images show this person wearing gloves, a mask, and a backpack, and it looks like they're tampering with the camera at the Guthrie's front door. Meanwhile, the family, Savannah Guthrie, media personality, says that the family still believes that this 84-year-old victim is still alive. Here's the footage. As released by Kash Patel. So very difficult to see a face or anything identifying, but I would say from the way the person moves, the height, it's probably male. This person is probably a male, probably, and obviously trying to conceal their identity, and likely very hard to say, but I'm guessing just from the way they're moving, mid 20s to anywhere from mid 20s to 40 years of age. That would be my guess. But we'll leave the real assessment to the experts, who at this point are not really ruling anything out wisely. And there's more we can show you. Let's go to the Twitter page of Kash Patel, where he has posted much of this material tonight. Here's the missing persons poster, which has been up, well, since January 31st. And scroll down, it says the White House, the president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of this suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities. The prayers of the entire White House are with the Guthrie family. And Patel is saying here the new images in the search for Nancy Guthrie over the last 8 days, the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department have been working closely with our private sector partners, he says, to continue to recover any images or video footage from Nancy Guthrie's home. And let's just take a look at these still frames from the surveillance footage. So again, from what I'm seeing with the eyes and the face and the size of the head, I'm thinking male. And again, probably 30s, 40s, maybe late to mid 20s, not elderly. There's another image. I don't know what it is that's being held, whether it's a weed or flowers of some kind. And a glove, again, trying to conceal their identity, maybe even their skin color. But you can see around the eyes, I'd say Caucasian. Scroll down again. Another still image. Another still image. Messing with the camera here. We're trying to. So yeah, it picks up a weed of some kind there, you see. Flowers. It looks like a weed. I don't know why. Why would you do that? Trying to smear it? Smear out the camera lens? Don't know. And there's the video again of suspect walking in. Additional footage. And a close-up on shoes. And somebody posting a picture of somebody else caught on surveillance footage previous to this from the neighborhood, but I don't know that that's terribly valuable. The investigators will look at that. And measurements between the eyes. And it looks like this is a colorized version, probably done with AI. Very disturbing case. So again, this masked and armed person appeared to tamper with the camera at the Guthrie's front door. And this captured on the morning she disappeared from her Arizona home. This was more than a week ago. These images released by the FBI, and FBI Director Kash Patel posted these on his social media account on X. 6 photos in total, 3 video clips. And these images show the unidentified person wearing a mask, gloves, sneakers, and was also carrying a backpack. And then, as I say, he picks up something that looks to be like a plant or a weed, and then walks up to the camera with it. It's I can't really determine what it is he's trying to do in that clip. The local county sheriff's office is leading this investigation. And as far as we know, no new news briefings planned at this time tonight. And these images show the logo for Nest, a smart doorbell brand. That's a Google company. And then Savannah Guthrie, the daughter of Nancy Guthrie, posted one of the photos on her Instagram account. And with that post, she had this message. She said, "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home. Anyone with information, please contact 1-800-CALL-FBI, 1-800-225-5324, or the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900. And President Trump has reviewed the surveillance imagery himself, according to Caroline Levitt. And I believe we have a clip of Levitt. If I can find the right tab here. Yes, here we go. In fact, I think all we have to do is scroll up, and a copy of that. Maybe I have to go back. Here's what Caroline Levitt had to say during today's media briefing.
I apologize for the delay. I was once again with the president. He and I were both reviewing the newly released surveillance footage from FBI in the Savannah Guthrie case on just this heartbreaking situation with respect to her mother. The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of this suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground. And once again, I will reiterate that the prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time, and we hope this person is found soon and that her mother is brought home safely. I apologize for the...
And now we're going to hear from Caroline Levitt again shortly as we dig into the latest on this Gordie Howe Bridge controversy, that new international border crossing, that new bridge spanning the Detroit River connecting Windsor and Detroit. And when we come back, I'm going to show you, I think, what is really behind Trump's threat issued yesterday to prevent the bridge from opening. Don't go away.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So, as I'm sure you are aware, because if you watched last night, I highlighted this almost in real time. Well, it was real time, but within the hour of President Trump posting on Truth Social that he was going to block the opening of the Ambassador Bridge, or sorry, the Gordie Howe Bridge in Windsor. In fact, let's take a look at what he posted yesterday before I get into the nitty gritty on what is really behind, like the real story behind what prompted all of this. Okay, here's Trump's Truth Social account. We might as well do the Truth Social scroll, which has become a semi-regular feature here on the broadcast. Our version of the Trump report. What's he got in here? 25 minutes ago, Brian Mast is a MAGA warrior. Congressman Daniel Webster is doing an incredible job. Corey Mills, John Rutherford. Two views of the great ballroom being built on the site of our wonderful White House. It's on budget and ahead of schedule. And, oh yeah, I saw this earlier. Pete Hegseth's salary was estimated at $2.3 million in 2024. His new salary, $256,000. And he goes down the list of Janine Pirro, Sean Duffy, pure patriots. They're in it for love of country, not for the money. Must be nice work if you can get it. 256,000 US a year. Not bad. Putting something up about, oh yes, Elon Musk and Catherine Herridge. Bombshell revelation, he says. CBS investigative journalist Catherine Herridge has gone public with explosive allegations. CBS executives deliberately buried the Hunter Biden laptop story and ordered her to wait until after the 2022 midterms to help the Democratic Party. So there's that. Here, maybe we've got a clip.
We eventually broadcast a story about the Hunter Biden laptop after the midterm elections in 2022. We commissioned a forensic review. I got a copy of the laptop data. I have it here still. I went to a lot of effort to get the cleanest copy of the laptop data, the same data that was provided to the FBI, because I didn't want to have any professional journalistic risk for CBS News. I wanted this thing to be totally locked down. When we did the story, we did it after the midterms. I argued against that because it was ready before the midterms. And my training is that you should always do the story when it's ready to go. You should not be dictated by the political cycle. Once we got the laptop story on the morning news, I felt that there was so much there that we could still do. For example, in the text messages, there's unfortunately the use of the N-word, the liberal use of the N-word. And I thought this was worthy of a story, but I was told that it was not something that interested CBS News. Then I asked for a forensic review of the laptop, and we found that there were more than half a dozen emails that were likely used by Joe Biden. I thought that was a story, but the answer that came back was, well, we need to know what the content is of the emails. But that was going to be a years-long process. So there was no way. So there were a lot of reasons I was told not to do it, not to pursue it. I spent a lot of my time at CBS following the Hunter Biden story. And one of the things that really struck me is this kind of disconnect. I didn't understand how a senior executive like George Cheese could tell me that this was a high priority for the network and for his boss. And yet the executives at CBS News, show producers, anchors could refuse that. I came to the conclusion that they must have felt that they were more powerful than George Cheeks, which was astonishing to me. I'd never worked at a place where a directive from the top would be so defied.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm going to get into some Epstein stuff here. I'm looking for the post from Trump from yesterday. just to show you here as we dig into the bridge story again right here. Here it is. So I'll just set up what I'm going to share with you tonight by reading this. As everyone knows, Trump said yesterday around this time, 24 hours ago, the country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades. Now things are turning around for the USA and fast. But imagine Canada is building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. They own both the Canada and the United States side, and of course, built it with virtually no U.S. content. President Barack Hussein Obama stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act and not use any American products, including our steel. Now the Canadian government expects me, as President of the United States, to permit them to just take advantage of America. What does the United States of America get? Absolutely nothing. Ontario won't even put U.S. spirits, beverages, and other alcoholic products on their shelves. They are absolutely prohibited from doing so. And now, on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China, which will eat Canada alive. We'll just get the leftovers. I don't think so. The first thing China will do is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. The tariffs Canada charges us for our dairy products have for many years been unacceptable, putting our farmers at great financial risk. I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also, importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. We will start negotiations immediately. With all that we have given them, we should own perhaps at least one half of this asset. The revenues generated because of the U.S. market will be astronomical. Thank you for your attention to this matter. There's so much inaccurate here, as I pointed out last night. First of all, Canada paid for the whole thing, and yet ownership is still joint between the Canadian government and the state government of Michigan. And there is some revenue sharing going on between Canada and Michigan. And even his comments regarding the tariffs on dairy are not really, shall we say, full. It doesn't really tell you the truthful story regarding dairy tariffs, because basically Canada doesn't sell dairy into the United States in any meaningful quantities. But that's a separate issue, which he is just inserting into the middle of this. And why is he doing this? That's the big question. Well, I'm going to tell you why in a moment. But first, let's go back to Caroline Levitt and listen to what she had to say regarding this. It's also not true that there is no U.S. steel in the Gordie Howe Bridge. The deal that was struck just said that the steel used had to be sourced, the source steel had to be North American in origin, and there is U.S. steel in the Gordie Howe Bridge, but here's Levitt today.
John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Yesterday, the president on social media threatened to block the new Gordie Howe Bridge, which would connect Detroit to Canada. This is a bridge that was fully paid for by Canada. It used American labor to construct it. It used American steel to construct that bridge. The president in 2017 was actually in favor of this bridge, part of a joint statement that he put out when he met with the Canadian Prime Minister. Why has the president changed his mind as it relates to this bridge?
I think the president was very clear and direct in his truth, John, but just to reiterate, the fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits generated by its use. This is just another example of President Trump putting America's interests first, and so he made that very clear in his call with Prime Minister Carney earlier today.
The politics surrounding this runs deep, and it runs back many years. It runs right through the Maroon family, which is a name that is well known to people in the Windsor, Detroit communities, because the Maroon family owns the Ambassador Bridge. That bridge constructed in 1929, and I know a bit about this because I worked and lived in Windsor for over 10 years. And so I did quite a number of stories on the Ambassador Bridge while I was working in that community. Did a lot of stories in Windsor, a lot of stories in Detroit, did quite a few stories about the bridge, which today is in really a state of, I would say, semi-disrepair. It has been an issue, the state of repair or disrepair or deterioration over the years. At times, giant chunks of concrete falling from the bridge onto streets and in the community around the bridge, near Huron Church Road in Windsor, which has been a concern for people in the community. It's not to say that it isn't safe for traffic. It's inspected annually, and that bridge, built in 1929, is supposed to be still safe, and they keep performing maintenance on it every year. The Maroon family, which owns it, they spend millions of dollars every year to keep it safe. Although when you look at a lot of the things on that bridge, I sometimes wonder, with the flaking paint, the rust, the crumbling concrete, but those who inspected say that the overall supporting structure is still sound, and they keep wrapping the cables and doing things to keep that bridge rocking and rolling. Well, it was sold to the Maroon family in 1979. That's when they took it over. And the effect of that is that they, as a company that owns trucking interests and then the bridge as well, they had something of monopoly in the Windsor, Detroit area for border crossings, and they collect all of the toll revenue every year at the bridge. And it's been a very lucrative thing for the Maroon family. So when talk of building a new bridge began, and it really started to take hold, the Maroon family really lobbied very, very hard against the construction of another bridge because they didn't want the competition. And it also highlights the contrast between a privately owned toll bridge, of which there are still some around these days, and a bridge which was proposed as a public interest, an international border span that was a project really of government, a cooperation between Canada and the state of Michigan. In order to get this structure built, the Canadian government gave, honestly, the U.S. side, the U.S. interests, a sweetheart deal. Canadian government put up all of the money, which saw costs balloon to the tune of, I think we're up to about $6 billion now, depending on the figures you cite. But that's a big chunk of change, all of it coming from the Canadian side. And therefore, the Canadian government really assuming all of the risk. And yet, even with that, there is a joint ownership provision in the contracts that have been signed that were negotiated a long time ago, many years ago. giving the state of Michigan co-ownership with Canada on that bridge. So this is why it's been such a surprise to people to now see, with the bridge 98% complete and just about ready to open to traffic. It's a big surprise to many to see Trump now weigh in and start to complain and demand a better deal, especially when back in 2017, he was praising the bridge project in a news conference with Justin Trudeau. In addition to that, Trump also approved $15 million for operational, to cover operational, the setup of operational operations on the U.S. side. There was a $15 million injection of federal money that went into not the bridge construction, but projects on the U.S. side of the border where the Gordie Howe Bridge exits into the United States. Here's what it was like in 2017. I believe this is a story from Mackenzie Gray highlighting the 2017 news conference where Trump praises the bridge that he is now, and the deal, which he is now lambasting.
During his first term, it was a project Donald Trump loved.
We have before us the opportunity to build even more bridges, and bridges of cooperation, and bridges of commerce.
But that cooperation now seemingly dead. The U.S. president's latest online post threatening to not allow the nearly finished Gordie Howe Bridge between Windsor and Detroit to open.
He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits.
The Americans have reaped substantial benefits, with U.S. steel and unionized workers used to help build the bridge, a point Mark Carney made on the phone with Trump Tuesday morning.
I explained that Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion, that the ownership is shared between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada.
To recoup the cost, Canada is set to charge tolls, an agreement first discussed in 2002 when George W. Bush was president, a symbol of international cooperation that had received bipartisan support for decades, until now. Why the president is posting about the new bridge isn't clear, but the billionaire American owners of the nearby Ambassador Bridge have donated to Trump.
Dear Mr. President,
and publicly lobbied the president to kill the bridge in this 2018 ad.
We have a simple request. Please review that presidential permit.
Trump could still do that and halt the bridge from opening, with multiple White House officials pointing to the U.S. ownership of the Ambassador Bridge, which moves 25% of Canadian trade, as rationale for Trump's latest threat.
We just want to make sure, again, that our economic and national security is preserved.
The president wanting U.S. Ambassador to Canada Pete Hoekstra to help smooth things out, according to Carney, despite Hoekstra, who is from Michigan, not being able to understand many Canadians' point of view.
People will say, Pete, you just don't understand why we're so mad about the 51st state. It's kind of like, yeah, you're right, I don't.
Trump has recently threatened a 10% tariff because of Ontario's anti-tariff ads, a 100% levy because of trade deals with China, and the grounding of Canadian-made planes. All threats he hasn't followed through on, but Trump could halt the bridge by pulling project permits.
Yeah. He does have some power there, but I think he's on shaky legal ground. We have contracts. If Trump acts on this, it will result in, I think, legal actions from the Canadian side, looking probably for arbitration through tribunals that are set up to resolve disputes over trade through agreements like CUSMA and other agreements that are in place, including contracts, which were long ago signed in order to get this massive project done. And again, what's the downside for the U.S. when it allows two-way trade. Canadian government foots the whole bill, pays for it. U.S. steel, American workers also used, contrary to what Trump is saying in his post. If you look at it, just about everything he said is wrong, which is about par for the course for a guy who thinks he knows something about golf, but maybe not so much about international trade or economics, as he destroys relationships and damages both the economies of the United States and Canada with his tariff policies. And now putting the future, the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge in question, after all of these years, after all of this time, he puts it all in jeopardy. And you know what this does is it further damages the reputation of the United States. It further damages trust that people have in the United States and whether you can actually do business with the United States or if you can trust anything that is said. Because along comes this guy with unitary executive power, meaning he, as the president, has enough power to just override everything everybody else has done and just cancel stuff with the stroke of a Sharpie and or delay it indefinitely, costing billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Well, yes, it would be billions upon billions because it will hinder trade and increase expenses all the way around. It just hurts everybody again. Why would he do such a thing? Well, you were seeing why in that report from Mackenzie Gray, and also in what I was saying earlier. It's the Maroon family. Matty Maroon passed away a number of years ago, the father. Now his son runs the company. Can't remember what year he passed away. I think it was, I don't want to say exactly, probably around 2020. Maybe later than that. I could look it up. I'm sorry if I can't quite recall. It's got to be within the last, around that time frame. Anyway, the point is the Maroon family has aggressively opposed this. And you saw the ad that ran lobbying Donald Trump, trying to get him to stop the bridge project. That was about 7 years ago. Here's a report from local Detroit media 7 years ago. This is WXYZ, Channel 7 ABC. 7 years ago. This is how long all of this has been going on. And I'm burying the headline, okay, or burying the lead. It's coming at the end, the revelation.
Ambassador Bridge are trying a new tactic to keep a second international span from becoming a reality.
7 Action News reporter Simon Chowdhury with their TV plea to the president.
The owners of the Ambassador Bridge are calling the Gordie Howe International Bridge un-American and a new commercial.
Dear Mr. President, there are 2 grand new bridges being proposed in Detroit between America and Canada.
Those 2 bridges are the Gordie Howe Bridge and a second span to the Ambassador Bridge. The commercial says one bridge is American, the other Canadian. Not true, says officials with the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. Even though the Gordie Howe Bridge is financed by Canada, it will be owned by both Michigan and Canada. The commercial hinted that the Gordie Howe Bridge is taking away American jobs, something WDBA officials say is a lie.
So this bridge is going to bring economic stimulus to both countries, to both communities, and certainly it's going to provide economic and employment opportunities to communities on both sides of the border.
Construction in and around the area of the Gordie Howe Bridge has already begun. The second span for the Ambassador Bridge is still in its blueprint stage, reportedly because if that is built, the current one must come down. This commercial is the Maroon family's chance to have President Trump halt the Gordie Howe Bridge during a time when tensions are increasing between the two countries.
Canada and the United States have been allies for many, many years and will continue to be allies and good neighbors for many years to come. The two countries share a trading relationship that's the envy of the world.
The commercial also takes a jab at former President Obama for issuing a presidential permit and, quote, siding with Canada, allowing the Gordie Howe Bridge to be built without American steel. But officials we spoke with say the agreement states the materials must be from North America.
Any iron or steel for the project on the U.S. side or for the international bridge must be produced in Canada or the United States.
And the plans are still in place. Construction of the bridge is expected to begin in the next few months. In Windsor, Canada, Simon Chowdhury, 7 Action News.
That was 7 years ago. And Trump, in the news conference in 2017, does he not remember? Does he not know the details on this? Does he not recall that he was supportive of it? And now suddenly he has switched position on this at the tail end of all of this. Well, you know, the Maroon family has a long history of political activism, mounting legal challenges against the Gordie Howe Bridge. They've been engaged in that kind of activity for decades. They've pumped all kinds of money into local, regional, state politics and federal politics in the U.S. They've lobbied very, very heavily, and they have been supportive of the Trump administration. Their efforts to influence the Trump administration date back to his first term and now have resurfaced in his second, aligning with their broader pattern of Republican-aligned contributions to protect their business interests. So there were significant contributions to the Trump Victory Committee. Matthew Maroon, the son of the late Manuel, or Matty Maroon, as I referenced earlier, is the current head of the family company, and they donated $600,000 to the Trump Victory Committee between 2019 and 2020. Joint fundraising. It was a joint fundraising entity, and they supported Trump's presidential campaigns and the Republican National Committee. And the family has been described as major Republican donors overall by many in the media, with contributions totaling hundreds of thousands to federal and state politicians who they think that they can get on side to oppose or even delay the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge, because as they delay the opening of the bridge, they continue to reap the benefits through the tolls. They basically have a monopoly on border crossing in that area. Where else are you going to go? Trucks don't go through the Windsor-Detroit tunnel. They can only use the barge or really the bridge. And so they make, oh man, how much do they make every year? I think it's, oh my gosh, about probably $60 million easily US every year, just from tolls back and forth. And during Trump's first term, they launched this targeted advertising effort to sway Trump against the Gordie Howe International Bridge. And they aired that commercial, which you saw there, trying to persuade him. And so none of this is really new at all. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the punchline. Are you ready? I'll give you a guess. What happened suddenly within the last couple of days that resulted in all of this hullabaloo? Why did Trump post that on social media and take this new stand? I'll give you 3 guesses. I'm looking in the chat. What might have happened? Anybody? Anybody at all? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Anybody? I'm not seeing anybody commenting in the chat. There's a delay, so I'll give it a moment. Jubilee says complex topic. Not really. It's just a lot of money being spent. Doug Ford, nope. No, good guess. Good guess, but no, it's not Doug Ford. He's not the reason. Good guess. I'll tell you why. It's because of the Maroon family. There's a report out tonight, and I was going to talk about the Maroon family and the constant lobbying and their attempts to block the bridge and delay its construction and prevent it from opening over, decades. I was going to talk about all this tonight because I was aware of it, and I didn't even touch much on the surface of this last night when we discovered Trump's new post about this. And there's a key piece of information here. Apparently, the Maroon family, specifically Matthew Maroon, met with U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick in Washington yesterday. And it occurred just before Trump's public threat about the bridge. So Matthew Maroon meets with Howard Lutnick, cries the blues, lobbies Lutnick, who knows exactly what was said, but they met. And you know how Lutnick is with Canada. And then Lutnick goes and meets with Trump. And shortly after, Trump posts what he posted on social media on Truth, saying, well, we're not going to let that open. Canada owns the whole thing, and they treat us unfairly. Because Howard Lutnick went and whispered in his ear and put the poison in Trump's brain. Toxic he is at times. Yeah, most of the time. That's what happened. Oh, you don't, how do I know? Well, it's because of this. I suspected something like this was going on, and now tonight, this just coming to light. I just before we came to air, became aware of this. Brand new New York Times, bridge owner lobbied administration before Trump blasted competing span to Canada. I had a feeling. I thought so. A Detroit billionaire met with Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, hours before President Trump said he would block the opening of a new bridge connecting Detroit to Windsor. The billionaire owner of a bridge connecting Michigan with Canada met Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Monday, hours before President Trump lambasted a competing span in the latest flashpoint in the deteriorating relationship between the United States and Canada. Thank you, Howard Lutnick. Matthew Maroon is a Detroit-based trucking magnate whose family has operated the Ambassador Bridge between Detroit and Windsor, Ontario for decades. He met on Monday with Mr. Lutnick in Washington. According to 2 officials briefed on the meeting who requested anonymity to discuss a private conversation. After that meeting, Mr. Lutnick spoke with Mr. Trump by phone about the matter, the officials said. And shortly afterward, Mr. Trump threatened to block the planned opening of a new bridge between Detroit and Windsor, which would take away toll revenue from Mr. Maroon's crossing if Canadian officials did not address a long list of grievances. The Maroon family has for decades mounted legal challenges to block or delay the competing project known as Gordie Howe International Bridge. One of the challenges reached the Canadian Supreme Court, while the family has also lobbied extensively against it. And they go on and they detail the deal, which shows that Canada did pay for the whole thing, the bridge itself. It was not immediately clear how Mr. Trump would block the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge, which remains under construction. The new crossing, which cost $4.7 billion, that's in U.S. funds, so it's about $6 billion Canadian, I think, was paid for by Canada. It is operated jointly by Canada and Michigan under a public-private arrangement. And so the claim that the U.S. gets nothing, absolutely nothing out of this, it is absurd again. This is why I was sitting here last night, flabbergasted and frustrated, because it's all PS. It's a giant lie. And Trump, with so much on his plate, I don't think he knows any better. So he trusts Lutnick to come in and do this in his ear, because you've got the billionaire from Detroit who goes to pay him a visit as they are preparing to open this bridge. And he says, "Hey, Howard, do me a solid, will you? Go tell Trump to just throw a monkey wrench into all the plans on that Gordie Howe Bridge. Let's keep it from opening for a while so that I can rake in, I don't know, maybe another 60 or 120 million over the next couple of years, or just have them prevent it from opening for the next 3. And it'll be 60 mil in my pocket, or our pockets over here, for the duration of his presidency. Maybe we can delay it even longer. And if you do that, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I'll keep on funding what needs to be funded." You know, I'm a big proponent. I believe in free market as much as possible. But I will say this. I know from living in Windsor, as long as I did, that there have been real issues with the way that bridge has been operated. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the Maroon family, the way they've lobbied against the Gordie Howe Bridge, and the way that they have really operated the bridge company itself, purchasing land, sometimes in Windsor, sometimes in Detroit, around the entrances and exits for the bridge, property issues, pollution, noise problems with the bridge, because in Windsor, of course, it cuts right through partly a commercial district and a residential district, and a lot of people live in those areas. Sometimes they've purchased homes and they've left them boarded up, while the buildings deteriorated. So they're not always viewed by the community as being very community friendly in the way that they've operated their businesses. Sometimes areas around the bridge itself have become run down as the family has purchased blocks of homes and other buildings, and they've been kind of left in states of disrepair. Some of the stuff have eventually addressed over time, but you could go back through the history of all of this and find many, many, many issues like that. And even the way the bridge itself is being repaired, it's been controversial at times. I remember stories about people complaining that sections of the Ambassador Bridge were repaired with like 2x4s. Not anything that was jeopardizing the structural integrity or safety of the bridge itself, but for other safety aspects and aesthetic reasons, there were real concerns there. So the Maroon family, very clearly politically active. And I know that people have been sending me over the past day reports from an independent journalist who a couple of years ago did a series of reports on the Gordie Howe Bridge and cost overruns and allegations of corruption. And I've seen those reports previously. And while in some respects, and I'm not going to mention the reporter's name, but I did look at those reports, and there is some truth in there, but there are a whole lot of allegations without actual real proof of corruption on the Canadian side when you watch it. And it's repeatedly said in there, if this is true, so it's all allegations, or a lot of it is allegations directed at certain people and players, and members of parliament, liberals, and family members associated with officials who were involved in building the Gordie Howe Bridge, and contracts, allegations of contracts, trucking contracts, construction contracts issued with favoritism and maybe not entirely legally. Now, here's the thing. I can't say but I don't know of any charges that have ever been laid, even since those reports came out, and they're resurfacing now and being reconstituted and shared online again. And I would say that there must be, well, there's certainly motivation to repost those videos, because this is now again an issue that has risen to the surface and is getting traction. So those reports will get more clicks and more attention again. And they really do make people question what has gone on with regard to the construction of the Gordie Howe Bridge. But there's no proof of anything. And even after all this time, no charges laid. Now, here's the thing. I would be very surprised if there wasn't some corruption, if there wasn't some skimming that took place as the bridge was constructed, and if maybe some contracts were awarded. I'd be surprised if there weren't some contracts awarded in a less than ethical manner. Because with a project of that size, I don't care what country it is, I don't care anywhere in the world. You even if it's a privately run project, you're always going to have people who are going to find ways to exploit the situation and profit. Maybe legally, just unethically, and maybe even illegally. You dig down, you dig enough, and you'll probably always find some level of illegality or corruption in any project. So it's kind of low-hanging fruit in a sense. And yet, on the other hand, it's clearly very politically oriented, these allegations, and it plays right into Trump-style politics. So I wonder about the true motivation behind those reports. I see the political motivations behind a lot of it, and then I see what the Maroon family has done over time, and the influence that they've been trying to inject in the Trump administration with regard to the bridge. So it is not really a complicated story, Jubilee. It is kind of a simple thing. You've got a family that bought a bridge privately, which was common practice back at that time, or more common, and it still happens today. You have privately run highways. You have one up in the Toronto area right now, a toll highway, right? But it's privately operated. That can be a good thing for communities if they're operated properly. But the Maroon family purchasing the bridge in 1979, they've operated it ever since. They've profited immensely from having it. They have the market on truck crossings pretty much cornered, and they would like to keep it that way. That is the truth of the matter. They did propose building a second span alongside the Ambassador Bridge, which would have, I think, just been paid for with private funds. But if they had done that, it would have exacerbated problems in the residential areas in Windsor, where people already have to put up and have always had to put up since 1929 with truck traffic, noise, pollution, and now at times through the past number of decades, at times falling chunks of concrete from the deteriorating Ambassador Bridge. So the government of Canada said, yeah, you can build this, or I think Michigan too. They told the Maroon family, yeah, you can build another bridge, but when you're done that, you have to tear down the Ambassador Bridge. And it was because of more concerns about quality of life, urban planning, protecting the rights and the quality of life for people who live in the areas underneath the bridge, in the areas around Sandwich Town and Windsor and so on. So that gets a little bit complicated, but the bottom line is you've got a billionaire family that owns the Ambassador Bridge. They've had a monopoly on the market since they purchased it since 79. They don't want to give that up. They've been lobbying hard, pumping money into politics, lining the pockets of politicians and their campaigns. And what you're seeing here right now is this just playing out into a new chapter with Matthew Maroon going and meeting with Howard Lutnick, and who knows what was said or what was promised. But then because of that, Lutnick goes to see Trump. And given the current state of affairs and the relationship between Canada and the United States and what Trump is trying to do with the 51st state rhetoric, it plays right into all of that, doesn't it? It gives Trump even more leverage. So it's not that hard to figure out. And knowing what I know about the Maroon family and the Ambassador Bridge, I wanted to highlight all of that for you tonight, because there's the truth. There's the truth. And I would temper what you're seeing in that other series of reports from the independent journalist who is alleging all this corruption. I would say this: if there's proof of corruption, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to find that there's some corruption, but if there is proof, show the proof. It's not enough to just sit there and make these allegations and say, and if it's true, well, show me the money. Show me the real proof. And yeah, and if true, then people should be held accountable, especially if taxpayers' dollars have been scooped up and abused and stolen, perhaps. A lot of money there. But if you don't have the proof, then you fall short. And then it becomes a bit of a political smear campaign. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Here's Carney today. I'll play his clip with regard to this issue. We've got the reaction from the Canadian side. This, of course, coming before the New York Times report from tonight saying that Matthew Maroon met with Howard Lutnick just before Trump's truth came out.
Secondly, we discussed a number of issues, international issues. Thirdly, we discussed the bridge. I explained that Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion, that the ownership is shared between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada, and that in the construction of the bridge, obviously there's Canadian steel, Canadian workers, but also U.S. steel, U.S. workers that are involved. This is a great example of cooperation between our countries. Look forward to it opening. And what is particularly important, of course, is the commerce and the tourism and the voyages of Canadians and Americans that will go across that bridge. So the conversation turned to a series of issues that we will raise and we're going to follow up on. I'm not going to go into detail on those issues. These would be specific issues in parallel to the CUSMA negotiations. Final point is the president asked appropriately that his ambassador, who's from Michigan, of course, play a role in smoothing the conversation in and around the bridge. So it was a positive conversation. It's a big game today, and we're going to win.
And here's Melanie Joly.
Continue d'aller de l'avant avec l'achat de F-35 si le processus d'achat est sous examen en ce moment.
Le contrat est toujours sous révision et c'est toujours la politique du gouvernement.
Mais il y a quand même des sommes qui ont été engagées, Mme Joly.
Ça, c'est une question que vous devez poser au ministre de la Défense.
How concerned are you about the threats from Donald Trump about the Gordie Howe Bridge? Do you think that's realistic that it might not open?
Well, when President Trump talks, we listen and we make sure that we take into account everything he says, because we always have to take him seriously. But also, we've been able, as a government, to deal with the different changes of thoughts of the president, and I'm convinced that we will be able to work this through.
Okay. And Francois Philippe Champagne also weighing in on this when asked during the media scrum today on Parliament Hill. Here we go.
Gordie Howe Bridge listen, it's always good to remind our American friends that we're one of their largest customer, and actually 2/3 of the United States of Canada as their first export market. And as far as I know, a bridge is both ways, you know? So it's always good to remind that to our American friends. And a decision on one side of the border always has an impact on both. So I think that's the key message. We're their largest customer. And therefore, an infrastructure like that not only serves one nation, but serves both nations. And I think that's what you're hearing also from a number of states and other people who understand that Canada is a key market for the United States. And that's why we always, want to find a way forward.
Do you think the bridge is now part of the free trade negotiations? Do you think they put that on the table?
I don't think so. I mean, listen, I don't have a crystal ball, but you're talking about an asset that serves the interest of both nations. Like I said, and that's one way we need to put it to our American friends always, is that sometimes it's kind of forgotten that we are one of their largest customer. And that means that obviously trade that goes in one direction favors also the United States of America. And therefore, that's the message I would bring to my U.S. colleagues for sure.
On the Budget Implementation Act, are you on the Budget Implementation?
Je vous ai pas entendu.
Okay. And with that, let's take a little break. I'll come back on the other side of this.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity, the Turn-Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn easy bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn easy bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day.
Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations, proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
The gentleman who behind that company has asked for a favor. And what he would like to know is, what do you think of that product? You could help us out by just leaving a comment on the Rumble channel. Not interested in what other people have to say on other channels. If you know what I mean, just put a comment in there on what you think of that Turn Easy Bed, and I will share that information with the sponsor and let him know. He's just looking for some feedback. It's a unique kind of company that he has set up, so he's looking for some comments, which I will share with him tomorrow if you leave something in the chat. So what else do we have for you tonight? Oh, the Epstein stuff. Yeah, it just continues to escalate, doesn't it? I'll tell you, it is, and at the center of it today, Howard Lutnick. Yes, he was on the hot seat, like literally today. Okay, so Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, confirmed while testifying today on Capitol Hill that he did visit Jeffrey Epstein's island in 2012. And this contradicts what he said previously. He lied. He said that he had cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein years before. And now today, he came out, testified that indeed he, even after he was aware that Jeffrey Epstein had been convicted on child sex charges, he still went to Epstein's island to have lunch with him. I have video, which I will share with you, highlighting this. But before we go to the testimony, let me show you what happened to him as he was walking in to testify. Media holding Howard Lutnick's feet to the fire today, and he does not look comfortable at all. Very distressed, caught in an apparent contradiction, saying one thing just a short time ago and something else completely today.
People about your interactions with Epstein? Did you have any financial involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? Why did you keep contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pled guilty to sex crimes?
Come on, give us some space.
What do you say to the Democrats calling on for you to resign?
Give us some space.
Mr. Epstein, people of your level in the British government have been forced to resign. Will you resign?
Give us some space. Give us some space.
Why did you keep contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pled guilty?
I look forward to testifying today.
Did you mischaracterize your relationship with him?
Some space.
Why did you say you found him gross but still kept in contact with him?
What do you say to those who are calling for you to resign now? Are you willing to speak to Congress about this?
I'm going to speak to Congress right now.
Do you expect to be asked about Epstein? Why did you mischaracterize people about your interactions?
Did you see the clip of Howard Lutnick before saying that he thought that Epstein was gross and didn't want anything to do with him, and he cut ties after finding out that he was guilty of sex charges involving young people? What he said there and what he said today, two different things. Let's go to the clip. I've got it here. Right there. Okay. Bring it up full screen. Bring it up here and bring it up there for you. Assess for yourself.
Why did the Epstein files show you coordinating a meeting and planning a visit with Jeffrey Epstein on his private island in December 2012?
Thank you for the question. I'm glad to be here to make it clear that I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again.
Did you in fact make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children. and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012.
There's also a reference to the fact that Epstein had expressed an interest in meeting your nanny. Do you know whether Jeffrey Epstein ever met with your nanny?
No, I saw that. I had no idea what that was about.
Wanted to meet Lutnick's nanny.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And the feud between Elon Musk and Steve Bannon rekindled right after this.
And also Donald Trump. Coincidence? Just dumb luck. Right? Another sealed file. That crocodile smile. We did our best, says the DOJ, while the truth just fades away. Another new spin. No one will win except the rich guys with gold ID cards and closets full of secrets behind steel bars.
So Bannon, Steve Bannon, strategist, political strategist, kind of an insider with Trump, was part of the first Trump administration, not now, went to jail between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 in order to protect Trump. So because he refused to testify on the J6 case. And he and Elon Musk do not get along at all. But he's not immune to the Jeffrey Epstein fallout because he definitely had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. There it is right there. Now you can find online, and maybe I will post the entire thing at some point, but there is lengthy interview that Bannon did with Epstein, and it has come to light that he was planning to produce a documentary with Epstein, a documentary that I think would have basically run interference to paint a more favorable picture in the court of public opinion on Jeffrey Epstein by getting many high-profile personalities, celebrities, politicians, rich people, the billionaires, the elite class, to basically give character testimonials in support of Jeffrey Epstein as part of this documentary. Now, it didn't come to pass in part because Epstein was arrested around the time just before Bannon was supposed to begin production on this. But Elon Musk has, Bannon was talking about Elon Musk being evil and vowing to basically take Musk down, as Musk supported Trump in this last election campaign and was becoming part of Trump's inner circle, and for a while was sort of almost like Trump's co-president, not vice president, the co-president at times. Some people thought that maybe Musk was even running things for a while, as he wasn't just running Doge. But that feud has resurfaced between the two, and Musk, who has at times taken real shots at Bannon. Let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. Couple of things to highlight here. First of all, let me bring this up. He was posting about Bannon on X right here 10 hours ago. Bannon is evil. And then he shares this article from Ian Miles Chong, Every Nail to Hammer, the definitive case against Steve Bannon. And in this article, it does a very good job of drilling down and focusing on some of the most embarrassing things that haunt Steve Bannon to this day. Some things I've highlighted myself, actually, so in some ways going back even 2 years ago. I'll show you what the article says. For nearly 2 decades, Steve Bannon has operated in the gray zones of global finance and digital culture. To the casual observer, his career looks like a series of disconnected pivots: Hollywood, Goldman Sachs, World of Warcraft, and eventually the White House. And if you look at some of the documents, the Epstein documents just released over the past week, there are references to Bannon and World of Warcraft, which it seems was being used as a way to potentially launder money. And Steve Bannon sort of in that world, and concerns about what his involvement might be there. It says, but a closer look at the verifiable facts reveal a consistent playbook using decentralized crowds as fuel for a personal enrichment and political dark money. virtual proving ground. So back in 2006, he used his background as an investment banker to secure a $60 million investment from Goldman Sachs into internet gaming entertainment company. And while IGE was marketed as a marketplace for virtual currency, it functioned as the primary off-ramp for a massive illicit ecosystem that thrived on identity theft and financial fraud. Identity theft and financial fraud. And you guys there who are concerned about digital ID, surveillance, take note that who's really behind this. The gold farming industry during this era operated through a cycle that mirrored classic money laundering techniques. Placement criminal syndicates used stolen credit card data to purchase thousands of game accounts and subscription time. Layering, it says these accounts were used to farm gold. By trading this gold across a web of dummy accounts, the original source of the value, stolen credit cards, was obscured from the game developers. And integration. Marketplaces like IGE acted as the legitimate storefront. They bought this gold in bulk and sold it to Western gamers for clean US dollars. By providing a liquid market for virtual gold, IGE effectively became a clearinghouse for value generated through global identity theft. Bannon, alleges, did not just join this company. He eventually became its CEO under the rebranded name Affinity Media. And during this time, he fought a class action lawsuit from players and faced internal litigation from co-founder Alan de Bonneville. The de Bonneville suit alleged that the company leadership was engaged in, tax evasion and the stripping of assets to shield personal wealth from legal liabilities. The calculated bandwagon from critic to chief strategist. So it talks here about how he entered the inner circle of Donald Trump and how he did it, and talks about the digital energy he had studied in the World of Warcraft forums. It was a calculated move by a man who saw a new vessel for using that strategy. And before he was the architect of the MAGA movement, he says Bannon expressed deep skepticism of the very people he would later serve. Michael Wolff's book, Fire and Fury, it's documented in here, describing a 2016 Trump Tower meeting with Russian representatives as treasonous and unpatriotic. He reportedly viewed the Trump Circle as a semi-criminal enterprise, later remarking that one could drop the semi part. Keep in mind that it's Elon Musk reposting this article tonight. Bannon's transformation from a distressed gaming executive to a political kingmaker was rooted in a tactical pivot during the Gamergate era. Well, at the helm of Breitbart, which is that conservative media outlet, he identified the monster power of ruthless online males, the same demographic that had organized to nearly destroy his virtual gold farming business, IGE. Rather than fighting this energy, Bannon harvested it, recognizing that the digital intensity used to disrupt gaming markets could be weaponized for national politics. In short, what he's done here, they're saying that Bannon was doing, is he saw how if you could harness the energy of disenfranchised young males who were having trouble finding community and maybe even a place in society, and you reached out to them or manipulated them through the internet, you could turn them into a political force for your own means, your own ends. To bridge the gap, it says, between niche internet subcultures and mainstream influence, Bannon utilized, and these are major influencers, he put together a media network of young, very watched young people, and nurtured this as a media network, social media network. Bannon utilized Milo Yiannopoulos as a de facto recruiter. Yiannopoulos actively courted disenfranchised young men by blending radical rhetoric with the free speech posturing of digital troll culture. This ecosystem, supported by the Mercer family's financial backing for projects like Milo's Dangerous, became a professional launchpad for a new generation of influencers. It lists Milo Yiannopoulos, Nick Fuentes, who I'm sure you're familiar with now, described here as a leader of a nationalist, youth-oriented dedicated base of support. Lauren Southern, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with, at one time working for Rebel Media, gained prominence through the digital infrastructure and audience networks Bannon helped cultivate. The inner circle, many others, including those who wrote for Dangerous, were deeply embedded in the group chats that functioned as the movement's war rooms. And that's what he calls his program now, the War Room with Steve Bannon. The wellspring of digital energy was far from accidental. It was a coordinated ecosystem. He's putting together a social media network as part of a bigger political machine. But you see, with Bannon, this is where he falls down. This is even why Trump has split with him. And it's because of grifting. It's because of his digital currency schemes. Remember, he was going to build that wall after Trump's first presidency. Here it is right here. The enduring influence of Bannon wields is rarely a product of genuine loyalty. It says, instead, it's built on a foundation of professional debt. The Bannon-Mercer pipeline produced a generation of influencers who are effectively gagged by their own success. This creates a pervasive code of silence within the movement. To call out Bannon is to attack the very architect of their own careers. Even as the evidence became undeniable, the silence persisted. In February 2025, Bannon entered a felony guilty plea for scheme to defraud in a New York State court. He admitted to deceiving thousands of donors who believed their money was building a border wall, while he instead diverted those funds to enrich himself and his associates. Do you remember the campaign? And then people asked Trump about it afterward, because he kept saying this was after Trump his plan to build the wall was falling apart, and Bannon said, well, we're going to build the wall. Bannon's playbook reached its most visible form with the We Build the Wall campaign. In 2020, Bannon and others were arrested on federal charges of conspiracy to commit mail fraud and money laundering. They allegedly looted the charity for personal gain after promising donors that all contributions would go toward construction. The federal loophole, while Bannon received a federal pardon from Trump in 2021, sparing him from that specific trial, his co-defendants were not so lucky. Yeah, they were taking the money. That's what it was all about. The money never went to build a wall. That was something Bannon did aside, away from Trump, who was doing it all the taxpayers' dollars. And then there was this one. This is the stuff I was highlighting about 2 years ago, the $1 billion grift, the Miles Guo partnership. I'm sure that many of you have never heard of Miles Guo. You maybe don't remember me or didn't see what I was talking about a couple of years ago. It says here, the trajectory of Steve Bannon's gray zone operations peaked through his partnership with Miles Guo, a self-exiled Chinese fake so-called billionaire who cultivated a massive online following as a vocal critic of the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. In 2020, Bannon and Guo launched a joint initiative to overthrow the Chinese government, declaring a new federal state of China during an event staged at Guo's luxury yacht in New York. And this partnership formed the foundation for a sprawling financial ecosystem that federal prosecutors would later describe as a $1 billion fraud conspiracy. Bannon and Guo co-founded GTV Media Group, a video sharing platform promoted as a safe haven from CCP censorship. Yeah, they were stirring up fear and getting people to take part in that. They utilized GTV and other entities such as Himalaya Farm Alliance and the Himalaya Exchange to solicit investments from hundreds of thousands of online followers. GTV Media raised approximately $452 million through unregistered stock offerings between April and June of 2020. Himalaya Exchange, a cryptocurrency ecosystem featuring H-Coin, Himalaya Coin, Guo falsely claimed this asset was 20% backed by gold and personally guaranteed that investors would not lose money. G clubs, an exclusive membership program that funneled millions into accounts controlled by Guo for personal use. It's nasty. And I think Elon Musk is right to highlight this stuff. I'll put the link here. The conclusion here says, while many in this circle remain tethered to Bannon by their past, others view the landscape with more clinical detachment. In an environment where chaos is a ladder, the historical ties of the 2010s are increasingly seen as stepping stones rather than permanent allegiances. For me, it says, this is the author speaking, not me. The calculations of the past can no longer shield the reality of the present. Bannon's career is not a story of political evolution, but of a serial grifter refining his craft. And that's getting traction tonight. I'll put the link in the Rumble chat. There you go, if you want to read that post. Steve Bannon. So, I mean, those are our allegations. Some of them have been proven in court because he went to jail and Trump pardoned him, got him off the hook. So he's still free. This also explains why, even though Trump had a falling out with Bannon, do you remember he was calling Steve Bannon sloppy Steve Bannon for a time? But Bannon has always remained loyal to Trump through all of it, never speaking ill of him, really. The only time I remember, things kind of got crazy for a while. Well, it's always been crazy, but things were really going off the rails at one point. And Bannon, I did note that he came out at one point and said, I can't do this anymore because Trump was behaving so erratically. But he's come back around and he's still, very, very supportive, very pro-Trump. And I think you can kind of see why. But there's no love lost between Bannon and Musk. The feud continues, it escalates. And some of those allegations have not yet been proven in court. And Bannon has launched, because I think Guo is still in jail. Let me just check on that. I think he is still in jail. And they were running cryptocurrency schemes, and they were a thorn on the side of the Chinese government as they created what was essentially this US-based pseudo-Chinese political party to challenge the CCP. I think Guo is still in jail. Yeah, he's still in jail. He's been detained since March of 2023. That's when I first started talking about it. Convicted in 24, I think, because he was convicted in July of 24 in a New York federal court, including racketeering, conspiracy, securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering related to a scheme that defrauded his followers of over $1 billion. That's a lot of money. And then his sentencing has been delayed many times. The most recent info on this is that he is now scheduled for sentencing April 13th, coming up a couple of months. So he's still being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, awaiting that sentencing hearing. And his assets, including luxury properties, a New Jersey mansion, have been or are being sold off as part of bankruptcy proceedings to help recover funds for victims of the fraud. And yeah, Bannon, they have a well-documented past relationship, and Guo and Bannon were close allies starting way back around 2017, collaborating on that anti-Chinese Communist Party effort with these media projects and initiatives such as the new federal state of China, which is that sort of political organization or sort of party which they were putting out there, trying to present that as sort of a political opposition to the Chinese Communist Party. And then they were using that as a way to generate a lot of revenue. And they received consulting payments from, Bannon received consulting payments, what they were basically from these entities or companies that were set up by Guo. And then Bannon was actually even arrested on Guo's yacht in 2020. But then, of course, we saw Donald Trump pardon him. Elon Musk, not nearly as forgiving. And folks, that's the way it is on this February 10th, 2026. We're going to leave it there for tonight. Oh, did anybody leave any comments on the bed? I don't know if anybody said anything. Well, if you're so inclined and you want to comment on it, just put a comment in there. The sponsor would like to know what you think. And I hope I didn't overcomplicate things for you there. I see somebody saying they have a headache. Yeah, there's a lot going on with that Bannon story. And we got into some money stuff and stuff that I don't think is really that complicated with regard to the bridge story, but I can understand why some people get a little confused by it. Bottom line is, it's a sweetheart deal for the U.S. Donald Trump thought so at one point, until Howard Lutnick came along and started bending the knee to, I think, a political donor. And with that being said, we will see you back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Monkey see, monkey do. Vladimir Putin's making a fool out of you. Once a deal maker, now just a shouter. Used to shake hands, now it's all about power. You turn your back on your friends and your allies too. You betrayed the spirit of the red, white, and blue. Oh, orange orangutan man, swinging through the world with a heavy hand. Tearing up treaties, slapping on tariffs, throwing tantrums like a billionaire sheriff. Dial it down, don't stop it, man, you beast, you critter. Orange orangutan man. Donald Trump 1.0 had a plan. Now Donald J. Trump 2.0's a wrecking man. Used to make deals, now you just sneer. Ruling through fear, grinning ear to ear. Canada's not for sale, Greenland ain't yours. Gaza's not a playground, quit making wars. Bluffing and puffing with the wig on tight. Acting like a boss, but you lost the fight. The art of the deal, man, that ship sunk. Now it's all about rage and a nuclear funk. Orange orangutan man, swinging through the world with a heavy hand. Tearing up treaties, slapping on tariffs, throwing tantrums like a billionaire sheriff. Dial it down, don't stop it, man, you beast, you critter. Orange orangutan man. You're fired. No, you're just bananas.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.